This is episode 29 of me sitting down once a week to talk about life and business, to help you make more money, have a lot more fun and fulfillment while you do it. Welcome back to Monday Diaries. As always, this is going to be a raw one-take update, and I'm going to start with a speed run of the business and personal brand growth, and then jump straight into the fun stuff as the title of this video suggests. So, Art of Monday's update on the screen right now. We have had 154 applications. We have 29 members internally, and the average member is 26 years old, roughly. And they're all lifestyle founders as well. So personal brand growth stats, I'm at 2,105 subs on YouTube. That's up 56 from last week. I'm at 152K on Instagram. That went up 823 and then went down 1,162. So a net loss in the last week, but that's been happening the last few weeks. So not surprised. And TikTok actually had some movement. I posted a video on there. It got 1 million views, I think, in the last week. And I'm now at 324.6, which is up 2,688. Finally, Art of Monday's Instagram is at 2,519, which is actually up 630. So some good growth there, and that's really cool to see that finally getting traction. So probably the biggest update this week is that I launched a personal newsletter called the Jai Journal. It's totally free. I'll put a link in the bio if you want to read it. And every Saturday I send an email to the curious humans who subscribe to the journal. I write about, honestly, brutally honest truths that lead to a more fulfilling life. And I also talk about internet businesses and self-improvement as well. So if that sounds up your alley, it might be worth having a read. It's I have so many mind-altering ideas. And in the latest journal, the one I sent yesterday or the day before, I spoke about how to get ahead of the 99% of people, but one part of that was how to pick a business model to pursue. And I thought I'd share my unfiltered thoughts on this to hopefully give you guys some value as well. So the art of choosing a business model. And for context, I have started at least 10 businesses since I was like a teenager. Some of them lost money, some of them made millions of dollars, some of them lost millions of dollars as well. So I used to grow Instagram accounts back in the day when you could use bots to like and follow, unfollow and that sort of thing. I was then a freelance videographer. Then I built a creative agency. We scaled that to about $1 million a year. I had 13 people in the team in-house. We had a studio. Also pretty much lost everything we made with that, so that was a big lesson. Then an e-commerce brand built to about the same size, but with just me as a co-founder and a couple of VAs basically. So much leaner, more remote team on that one. And then I left both of them last year to travel for 6 months, basically go incomeless and just sit in this ideation phase of trying to understand which business I wanted to launch and lean into for the next 10 years in true alignment. So that leads me to now, and I just wanted to walk you through the exact process I took to find that idea. Because the honest truth is, I wouldn't start any of the same businesses again today. They were so essential in me learning and the experience I have now. So I had to go through that, but now I wouldn't pick them again. So I'll explain my thought process in a second. But this year I launched Art of Mondays, and this is the process that I took to find it. First, write down what you don't want. It's this concept called anti-vision or anti-goals, and it's basically looking at everything you don't want in your life and then working backwards to ensure that that doesn't happen, and you can make choices accordingly. For example, I don't want to be at the mercy of clients. I don't want to have a business that relies on people to scale. So I would just jot down those things over and over and over again and write this big old list of things I don't want. Then start taking note of all of the ideas you come across. I literally have hundreds of ideas and some pretty good ones, but when I try to sit on the spot and just come up with one, like right now, I just draw a blank. I just can't come up with something. And I think it's so common for people to not have an idea. They just don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. And I encourage you to consume with intention. Every conversation you have, every time you listen to a podcast, you get an idea. Every time you're scrolling, even TikTok sometimes gives you ideas. Have a section in your notes on your phone and just jot down the ideas. Even if they're shitty ideas or whatever, you can expand on them later. But the point is, you now have a bank of ideas. And that is the most important part, because I go back to that list sometimes and I'm like, oh shit, I don't even remember when I thought of that, or that's actually a great idea. And you just have this list that you can pull from. So really encourage you guys to start with that and just consume with intent. Another thing you should be looking for, especially when you're in your 20s, is finding things that you're uniquely really good at. Like, what are the things you could be in the top 1% for? Because they're worth pursuing, because that is going to feel like play to you, not work, when you're that good at something. So think about that as well. So here's what I personally look for in a business model. 1, it must be online, so I'm not tied down and I can work remotely. 2, it's something that I genuinely enjoy and am good at. Like I said, it must feel like play to me, but work to other people. Number 3, there's a clear market for it. In other words, there's people asking for it. Number 4, it's a product that has a natural flywheel. Another way of looking at this is, if you only ever acquired one customer, would the business grow? In most cases, the answer is no. You acquire that one customer, maybe they stay around for a bit and then they churn and you're back at zero. If you can find a business or a product that when you acquire one customer, it grows, it's an infinitely scalable thing, because this one person talks about it to another person who talks about it to another person, and everything becomes easier because you're not relying on marketing essentially to grow. That is pretty hard to find. It's profitable and self-sustaining. I want to stay self-funded. I don't want investors. It aligns with my personal values, which means I can live and breathe it and just row in the same direction every day. It is scalable beyond people. I can essentially build it once and sell it 1,000 times, whereas usually in service businesses you require recurring people and recurring projects in order to make more money. Number 8 is, it's something that I have a competitive advantage with. It allows me to use my zone of genius. So for me, that is probably the ability to grow audiences. I guess that's marketing, and also emotional storytelling, which is editing videos, shooting videos. Ideally, it has a moat, which means it's hard to build and it's hard for other people to copy you. I think this is a strategy probably not for beginners, but more established founders who are trying to find a new thing, because otherwise you are just making it harder for yourself. But if you can find the thing that has a big moat that other people can't do, or not as many people can do, that's a huge advantage as well. For me, the business that ticks all of these boxes is Art of Mondays. It's a private community for lifestyle founders, and I won't go into all the details here. You can read up about it. I'll drop a link to the Instagram below and you can dig into it. But it took me 10 years in business to find this idea, and I think it's the one I can spend the next 10 years on at least. So switching gears a little bit, this is one of my lessons from this week, and that is that there are people out there who love to do the things that I don't love to do. My co-founder Evan loves finance and automating things and just all the back-end managing team, whereas I couldn't think of anything worse to do, and that has usually been my downfall in the past. And at first it's hard to get over. It's like your own limiting beliefs hold you back, because you're like, how could someone else possibly like this when I don't? But the reality is there are people out there. Evan's one example. Our facilitator Matt is another example. He loves bringing people together, holding space in conversation and letting these transformations occur. And whilst I like that in theory as well, it takes a lot of energy and focus for me personally. It's just not as flowy. So I much prefer to be a participant in that than a facilitator. And that's what's happened in the last couple of weeks, which has been really cool. That's been a really fun process for me. So big win of the week. This one's kind of funny. About 9 or 10 months ago, I paid a branding guy to do the branding for Art of Mondays, way before I was ready to launch. And it was $5,500, which is the most I've ever spent on branding. Usually I can't even justify branding. I'll just do it myself with a logo in Canva and a website I built myself. But for some reason, I really wanted to craft a certain look and feel around Art of Mondays going into it. And so I bit the bullet, really liked this guy's work. He had a lot of credentials in the space, and to be honest, it has been a nightmare. We started on some stuff, and then I think shit kind of hit the fan on his side. A lot of personal problems. I won't go into it because I don't want to put him on blast, but it led to us getting 8 or 9 months down the line and no work being done. Don't even know if there's work in sight. The direction was kind of off towards the end, and I was like, I'd rather just pull the pin and recoup what I spent, or as much as possible, and move into the next thing. So literally in the last week, we were refunded. Not all of it, it was about 75%, but it's still considered a big win on my side, because that's just been a nightmare that I don't want to deal with again. So I don't really know if there's a lesson there. Maybe only go with people that have been referred to you, so you know the quality. But I think there's some unforeseen things we couldn't avoid in that one. So big win. And one thing to ponder is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Thanks so much, team. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.